This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hi, my name is Mark, and this is my Lavinia of the 10th Commander deck. Hey everyone, this is my Lavinia of the 10th Commander deck. She is a 5-mana costing 4/4 protection from red. When she enters the battlefield, you basically get to detain everything that has a converted mana cost of 4 or less. That's a non-land permanent. She's very useful because she can shut down some generals and some creatures that can do some nasty things. I also chose her because I didn't really want to run Grand Arbiter, because when you run Grand Arbiter, you're usually kind of a target. So I really wanted to play blue-white, and I wanted to play a general that just, would do some good things, but wouldn't be too crazy to the point where I'm going to be exited out of every game very soon. And this is the deck. I'm a big fan of the Zendikar Full Art lands. I run 11 islands. I run 13 plains. Other lands in the deck include, we have Command Tower, Hallowed Fountain, Glacial Fortress, Seachrome Coast, Wanderwine Hub, Tranquil Cove, Sejiri Refuge, Azorius Guildgate, Coastal Tower, and Azorius Chancery here. Run one kind of land that'll get me any kind of land I need, whether it be for basics. I got just run Evolving Wilds. You got Rogue's Passage to make your guys unblockable, including your general. Reliquary Tower, because I love to draw a lot of cards. Temple of the False God, pretty much an EDH staple there. Now we're going to go to the creatures, spells, enchantments, etc. We're going to start off with the blue cards in the deck. We got your Omenspeaker, 2 mana, 1/3 that scries 2. You got your Seagate Oracle, 1/3 creature that basically, when it comes to the battlefield, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 in your hand and 1 on the bottom. Very good for drawing and scrying through my deck and getting what I need. Archaeomancer will grab me that instant or sorcery that I need back from the graveyard. Clone, very good card. One of my absolute favorites. I love being able to just take my opponent's creatures and pay a less, casting cost and have the same thing. It's just amazing. I love copying my opponent's Eldrazi creatures as well. Riftwing Cloudskate, basically 5 mana, 2/2 flyer that bounces a permanent when it comes into play. You can also suspend it for 2 mana, and it has suspend 3. I will use this to bounce my own stuff or my opponent's stuff, just depending on what I need. Prognostic Sphinx, probably one of my absolute favorite creatures in the deck. 3/5 for 5, flying, that basically scries 3 when it comes into whenever it attacks, which is a very useful ability. Like it a lot. Mulldrifter, 5 mana, 2/2 flying that draws 2 cards when it comes to play, or you can pay the invoke cost and have it come in. Basically, it'll come into play for 3 mana, but then you sacrifice it after that, and then you draw up to 2 cards. Frost Titan, don't need to really explain that guy. 6 mana, 6/6, tap target permanent. Dictated Kruphix, this spell lets everybody draw an extra card. A little bit of a political card here. I like to basically let my opponents draw an extra card because it might deter them from attacking me. Jace, Architect of Thought, mainly use him for his Factor Fiction ability. It's a mini Factor Fiction actually, because you only do 3 cards, but still, I like to use it twice, and it usually gets me the cards I need. This is Brainstorm. This is actually a card that I picked up at GP San Jose here recently. This is done by the great Christopher Rush, one of my all-time favorite artists in Magic. He had this in his binder, and I saw it, and I had to pick it up. I really am a big Spawn fan, so that kind of made it something I just had to have. See Beyond, draw 2 and shuffle a card back from your hand into your library for just 2 mana. I like this card a lot because I usually have a lot of land in my hand, so shuffling that 1 card back is not a big deal. Divination, 3 mana, draw 2. Jason's Ingenuity, 5 mana, instant speed, draw 3. Here's a card that I just do not see in EDH very much, and in fact almost at all. It's called Recall. It's an older card from Legends. Basically what it is you pay 1 blue mana and XX. You basically discard, or rather sacrifice, X cards from your hand, and then you can bring X cards back from your graveyard to your hand. So basically what it means is you pay 1 colorless for each card you're discarding, and 1 colorless for each card that you're getting back from your graveyard. So if you wanted, say, 2 cards back from your graveyard, you'd have to sacrifice 2 cards from your hand and pay 5 mana. But in the end, I mean, you can get some really good spells back from your deck that are really useful. So I do like this card a lot. I'd like to see it played in EDH a lot more, but we'll see. Aether Spouts, 5 mana for each attacking creature. Put it back on the top of, or bottom of its owner's library. Can be really devastating to an opponent who basically attacks you with a ton of creatures. Cyclonic Rift, probably a card that everyone hates to get played against them because it returns every non-land permanent to its owner's hand if you pay the overload cost. I've actually done it for its overload cost. Sometimes I've actually just paid it for 2 to return something that is pretty nasty that's attacking me, or just a permanent that's doing some real damage to everybody in the group. Now we'll go into the white spells, or white creatures and everything like that of the deck. You got your War Priest of Thune, destroy an enchantment. Azorius Justiciar, 4 mana, 2/2 that detains 2 creatures when it enters the battlefield. Stonehorn Dignitary is a 1/4 for 4 that when it comes into play, a target opponent skips their combat phase. And in a deck where I do a lot of blinking or flickering, this can be really devastating. Speaking of flickering, or rather, you know, just any kind of thing like that, you got Galepowder Mage, 4 mana, 3/3 flyer that when it attacks, I can remove another target creature that from the game and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. That very helpful card. Cloudgoat Ranger, 3/3 for 5 that when it comes into play, you put 3 1/1 Kithkin Soldier tokens into play. Very useful. Sunblast Angel, 6 mana, 4/5 for flying, and also when it enters the battlefield, you destroy all tapped creatures. This card can also be very useful when it's flickered or bounced. Sun Titan, 6 mana for a 6/6 vigilance that when it enters the battlefield, you can return any any permanent, with converted mana cost 3 or less. So you can get lands with this, which is very helpful. Angel of Serenity, you got your 7 mana 5/6 flyer that basically when it enters the battlefield, you can exile up to 3 creatures from either the battlefield or even your graveyard. So there's some creatures you really want to get back from your graveyard, just go ahead and exile them, and then I can just bounce her, and then all the creatures go back to my hand. Resolute Archangel, 7 mana 4/4 that basically puts your life back up to 40 every time she enters the battlefield. So if I get an engine going where I can keep bouncing her back to my hand via spells or my artifacts that I run in this deck, it can be very hard to get rid of me. Chancellor of the Annex, 7 mana, 5/6 flyer. Basically what she says is when she's in your opening hand, if you have her in opening hand, you reveal her to everybody, and everyone's very first spell that they play gets countered unless they pay an extra 1. Now, the ability also comes into play, or comes into effect, if she's on the battlefield. If she's on the battlefield, that effect resonates throughout the entire game when she's on the battlefield. So basically, from then on, if she's on the battlefield, all your opponent's first spells get countered unless they pay 1. But if she's in your opening hand, just that initial one gets countered. You got your Gideon Jura, 5 mana, Planeswalker. His abilities are basically you +2 him and force everyone to attack one of your opponent's creatures to attack him. So you can choose one of your opponents who has like a bunch of creatures who could basically, probably take one swing and kill everyone, and basically make it so they all attack Gideon, and it gives you an extra turn. Or you can basically just -2 him to destroy a tapped creature, or you can even turn him into a 6/6 creature that I believe cannot take damage. So it's very good. Love that Planeswalker. Some staple removal spells here. We got Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshares. Condemn is fun to play against someone's general that's really nasty. Valorous Stance. Mainly I use this to make my creatures, or a creature rather, indestructible. But I have used it for the other ability as well. Some Wrath spells. You got Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, and Hostilities. Terminus. Other types of removal in the deck. Some enchantment removal. You got Decide. Return to Dust. Can do 2. You can either do an artifact and an enchantment, or 2 enchantments or 2 artifacts, as long as you play it during your main phase, which is very good. Here are some of the flicker spells or blink spells that are in the deck. You got your Cloud Shift. Otherworldly Journey can put a +1/+1 counter on the creature once it comes back into the battlefield. Liberate does the same thing. Instant speed. Flicker is basically what it does is it flickers something. 2 mana. I usually do this on my turn after attacking to get one of my creatures to do an ability that can come into play. Ghostway. 3 mana instant. Remove all each creature that I control from the game, and then return all of them to the battlefield at the end of the owner's control. At the end of the turn. This can be very good if I have many creatures on the battlefield to just get a whole bunch of abilities to go off. Very helpful. Faith Reward. This card can be very good to play either if your opponent's wrath the board or after you wrath the board. I play this card after basically taking my creatures attacking, and then after the attack, go ahead and destroy all creatures, and then bring all my creatures back. So I'm the only one who has a good board presence. Some of the multicolored spells in the deck: Azorius Guildgate. I'm sorry, Guild Mage. This is basically just tap down creatures or counter activated abilities, which is very good. Augury Adept. This is usually a good card to play early on. 2/2 for 3. That basically, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a card that has a mana cost, you get to gain life equal to its mana cost, and you also just get to draw the card anyway, even if it ends up being a land. You just don't gain any life off it. But I have got this out very early in games, and I usually can gain a lot of life. Wall of Denial, easily one of the best walls ever made. 3 mana for a 0/8 Defender Flying Shroud. Absolutely amazing. Can block just about anything. Drogskull Reaver. This card is absolutely amazing. 3/5 for 7 mana that has flying, double strike, lifelink, and whenever you gain life, you draw a card, which is very nice. Venture the Sojourner, 5 mana Planeswalker. Mainly what I use him for is to, you get to exile a permanent that I control, and then return to the battlefield at the end of turn. And that's a +2 ability. And if you get his ultimate ability off, which basically means whenever you cast a spell, you get to exile a permanent. You have to get -8 on him to do that, but it's amazing when you get to do it because it can basically make your opponents pretty much scoop at that point, because, you know, it's every spell you play, and that's for the rest of the game. You get to exile permanents, so your opponents will slowly not have any permanents after this thing goes off. And then you can also -1 them to make all your creatures unblockable, which is very nice as well. Turn and Miss, another flicker spell. Supreme Verdict, it's a can't be countered wrath spell. I love it. Thoughtwave Gambit, 6 mana costing instant that basically says you tap all creatures your opponents control and you untap all your creatures. I love playing this at the end of my opponent's turn, the person who's right before me, and then sunblasting everybody's creatures. It's kind of a little bit of a nice little 2-card combo there, which is very nice. Sphinx Revelation, don't need to really say a whole lot about that card. This card was a staple and standard for a long time there. You got your Solemn Simulacrum, some ramp, you got your Soul Ring, Worn Power Stone. A card I don't see a whole lot in EDH decks, I mean, at least in some of the decks that in the area that I run, is Elixir of Immortality. This card has actually saved my life many times. Just getting that extra 5 life when someone thinks that they're going to be able to kill you that turn, and they kind of forget about the elixir, and then you basically pop the elixir and you're still alive at the end of the turn, and then you can have another turn to do something. It's helped me out so many times. You got your Swiftfoot Boots. The reason why I like Swiftfoot Boots better than Greaves for this deck, everybody always asks me, why don't you run Lightning Greaves? You know, you don't have to pay the 1 to equip it. I like this better because it makes my creature hexproof, which means I can still target it, and that's what I like. Because there are some cards in this deck that you do have to target your creature to do the abilities, having Shroud means I couldn't do it, and that's the reason why I run this over the Lightning Greaves. Crystal Ball, another card I sometimes get asked why I run this over Sensei's Divine Top. Once again, this is kind of a scry type deck or a draw card deck that I want to be able to get my stuff as fast as possible, and I like the scrying ability just a little bit better than the fact that you get to look at the top 3 cards and put them back in the order. Because I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the top 2, and I've just taken both those cards and just shipped them both to the bottom, and it's really helped me out. And finally, the 2 cards in the deck that really fuel the engine of the deck. You got your Crystal Shard and Erratic Portal. Mostly these cards are used for my creatures. The Erratic Portal is pay 1, return target creature to its own hand unless they pay 1. Crystal Shard is basically the same thing. If you pay a blue mana, it costs 1. But if you don't have any blue mana, it'll cost you 3. But, yeah, basically, they're basically 1 mana. I usually return Lavinia to my hand if I need to detain things again. Or if I want to gain life again with the Resolute Archangel, or just anything, because I have so many creatures that come into play, abilities, that these 2 cards really fuel the deck and can make it very good. And that is my Commander deck. Thanks for watching CMDR Decks. Please subscribe and favorite.